Well, as the war in Ukraine escalates, Russia is cracking down on free speech amid growing efforts to control its own narrative surrounding the deadly conflict. Moscow passed a new law aimed at arresting any journalist publishing news deemed fake by Russian officials. Meantime, more major companies are pulling their operations out of Russia. So for more on all of this, we want to bring in Axios world editor Dave Lawler. Dave, thank you so much for joining us. I know that you're somebody who's been sort of watching Vladimir Putin's rise over the years. And, you know, it occurred to me when we look at this attack on Ukraine that there were many steps before that brought us here. Crimea, yes, was certainly one. But I wonder, as you've watched Vladimir Putin, have you, and analyzed the situation, do you think that the chess moves started even earlier than Crimea? And why the invasion now?
Sure, absolutely. So we can certainly go back to 2008 when he moved into another neighboring country, another former Soviet republic, Georgia, and he basically said he was provoked, sent in the tanks, and carved up two independent so-called republics inside of Georgia. That was very much the playbook that he ran again in Ukraine in 2014. But even still, people who've watched Putin quite closely, I think were surprised that he went to this extent, that he did a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, even with the West threatening, you know, the harshest sanctions Russia's ever seen. And I think that only makes sense if you look at the assumptions that Putin must have been making, which was that he would be able to take Kyiv quite quickly, that he would face limited resistance at home, that the West might be a little bit more divided than they have been in responding, and really that the Ukrainians would not put up the kind of resistance we've seen. So yes, we have seen moves that built up to this point from Putin, but this is by far the most drastic gamble that he's taken in his 22 years in power.
And then I think the question that everyone has been asking since the very beginning of this is, what is the end game here? Is it to annex? Initially, I really thought perhaps it's to annex more land just in the east, where, you know, the fighting had already been taking place. But then now that we see him moving closer and closer to Kyiv, I'm wondering if it's to take all of Ukraine and then what, occupy it? What do you believe might be his end game here?
Right, exactly. So I think back to the moment when he declared this war, basically, and he said it was an operation in the east, but then he finished speaking and there were explosions outside Kyiv. So it was clear that this was at least targeting the capital, you know, the eastern half of the country. Kyiv is sort of in central Ukraine. We haven't seen as much fighting in the west of the country. But in terms of what he hoped to achieve, U.S. intelligence think that his goal was to surround Kyiv and force the government to capitulate, basically, and then he'd be able to install a pliant government. You're right that there's every likelihood that he would either annex or de facto control sections of the country in the east, and then perhaps let some kind of puppet government run the country from Kyiv. But that scenario no longer looks viable. I mean, if you look at the cities they've taken, Ukrainians have flooded the streets to protest at great risk to themselves. The population is not willing to go along with Putin's plan, and the Ukrainian military has put up a much stronger fight than Putin probably anticipated. So his endgame, I would guess, is shifting in real time. And the question is, how serious is the diplomacy going on? You mentioned that the foreign ministers met today. There wasn't much progress made there. But yeah, I mean, there's still this effort to encircle Kyiv. And so at some point, you know, if there's no deal before then, presumably he will try to take out the government, try to take out Zelensky. But then is he able to control the country, to pacify the country? From what we're seeing, it doesn't look like that's going to be possible.
So clearly there is worldwide resistance, but I want to ask you about resistance within Russia. He has definitely gone to great steps to control the narrative, but it's hard to control a narrative in this age of this information age that we're in. I guess my question to you is whether or not he has been successful in Russia when it comes to the narrative that he's been putting forth.
Yeah, so we've certainly seen in the cities young people in particular coming out to protest, Moscow, St. Petersburg. There is some polling coming out, though. And again, this is a very initial, but that suggests a relatively small, but still a majority of the country supports this operation. Putin has been controlling the TV news environment for decades. That's the dominant form of news in Russia. And so But there was also independent media flourishing online in print, even after, he had really taken a very authoritarian turn in the country. That is what we're seeing come under attack, particularly now. A lot of Western media companies are pulling out. Social media is being cracked down inside of Russia, and independent media outlets, Russian media outlets that have operated for years now, are being forced to shut down. So he's really stepping up his efforts to control the narrative inside of Russia. And I think it's too early to tell how successful he's been in controlling that narrative.
David Lawler, great talking to you. I encourage people to check out the Axios podcast, How It Happened, because you guys start to sort of dig into this whole journey. It's excellent and just started. Thank you so much.
Thank you.